Good evening, everyone. My name is Kyle, owner of Surprise Break Firearms Training, and we're continuing our Ohio concealed carry law video this evening. First and foremost, just to kind of give a little disclaimer, I cannot exhaustively go over all of the laws, whether it's local, state, and federal, and get this video done within the course of an hour. It just can't happen. There's over 8,000 laws in the books, and this is going to be a brief overview of those. But we're really going to focus today on self-defense as it pertains to concealed carry and the justifiable use of a handgun for self-defense. Now, a friend and colleague and mentor of mine, John Farnham, I believe he summarized this in one sentence the best I've ever heard it. He said, and I quote, that we use guns to apply deadly force when acutely necessary in order to resolve a personal security crisis that can't be acceptably resolved otherwise. So, what does that mean? Well, it means that we're using this handgun as a tool of last resort. We're not using it to menace or terrorize or to threaten others. And if we do not follow that guideline, there can be some criminal consequences of that. Also, if we follow that guideline, there's a good chance that you're not going to wind up being criminally charged, and you're not going to wind up sued. And also, you're going to avoid those confrontations and those situations in which you might have used your firearm altogether. So, with that being said, let's talk about a handgun being a deadly weapon. In the state of Ohio, a handgun is a deadly weapon. So simply shooting someone with your firearm is aggravated assault, if not attempted murder or murder. So it does not matter where you shoot somebody, you're going to have a criminal charge of assault, aggravated assault, attempted murder or manslaughter if you use that firearm and it's not a justifiable situation in which you use that firearm. So it's very important that we do everything by the books. And whether you shoot someone in the chest, whether you shoot someone in the foot, whether you cause them any physical injury, we need to remember that it's a deadly weapon. Now, in the state of Ohio also, simply pointing your firearm at somebody when it's not justified can result in an aggravated menacing charge. So it's very important that you are aware and you know the answer to, do I have to shoot this person? If that is a yes, then you pointing that firearm, giving them a verbal challenge, and in the worst case scenario, you actually shooting them in self-defense is going to be justified. Now, the Supreme Court of the state of Ohio has given us 3 guidelines in order for us to categorize something as self-defense. The first criteria is you have to be the innocent victim of the confrontation. You cannot be the one who started the confrontation. The second responsibility is you have to have a real and honest belief that should you not act, you would be seriously physically hurt, maimed, or killed. So, or others in your care would be seriously hurt, maimed, or killed. So it's not something as simple as someone just comes up and punches you in the face and that's the end of it in order to justify self-defense. The key word is serious physical harm. Now, the last portion of that is there has to either be no legal duty to retreat or no means to safely escape the situation. Let's talk about duty to retreat a little bit and what that consists of. Duty to retreat is simply whether or not you have a legal requirement to leave the situation before using deadly force or not. Situations in the state of Ohio in which you do not have to show that duty to retreat are situations in which you're in your own home or another person's home legally and you have permission to be in their home legally when you're attacked. You don't have to try and leave that residence. Same thing with your personal vehicle or a vehicle owned by somebody else that you have a right to be in, that you have permission to be in. If you're attacked, you do not have to try and leave that vehicle and flee before using deadly force, but the other two requirements have to be utilized, have to be met in order for it to be a justifiable shooting. Let's talk about defense of others real quick. You heard me earlier in this video state that there has to be a real honest belief that if you do not act, serious physical harm will occur to either yourself or others. But let's talk about some cautions when it comes to defending others. A couple of years ago up in Michigan, there was a concealed carry holder, and he had to learn this lesson the hard way. He was in a city, and he was going over walking towards a high-rise apartment complex. As he's walking on the sidewalk, he has his concealed carry license on him and his firearm. He observes two males and a female fighting coming out of the doors of that high-rise apartment building. This altercation continues on, and then eventually the two males end up pinning the female to the ground. They're not striking her, hitting her, or assaulting her. They just have her pinned to the ground. Well, our permit holder in this case decides to pull his firearm and point it at the two males who had this female pinned to the ground. Well, it kind of sounds like you could articulate a way to where this man's actions were reasonable. But however, the problem with this is he did not have the full story. He did not know who actually started that fight. The background story and how this all unfolded is the two males that were pinning this female to the ground were actually undercover police officers. They were trying to execute an arrest after they had purchased narcotics off this female. So the police surveillance van sees all this going on, decides, hey, they got to intervene because their officers are in danger. They order the concealed permit holder to drop the gun, get on the ground, and he is initially arrested and charged with aggravated menacing. Now, or whatever Michigan statute is similar to aggravated menacing, but that's what he'd be charged with in Ohio. Now, eventually it got pleaded down in order to where he didn't get any criminal convictions. However, though, he did have to lose his concealed carry license for the rest of his life. So he can no longer legally carry a gun in public. The moral of the story is if you use your handgun to defend another, that person cannot have started the altercation, the violent confrontation, and that person must have a real honest belief that their life is in danger or they're in danger of serious physical harm or death. Otherwise, I strongly caution you against intervening in situations that aren't crystal clear that the person you're siding with is indeed the victim. Let's talk about what can happen if your case of self-defense isn't clear-cut and you do get some possible criminal charges, or you can be possibly sued in court, and how to avoid that. Now, obviously, if self-defense is not proved by you and your attorney, there's going to be some criminal charges that will result, and then you'll probably end up in trial, or it may get pled out before trial. But you want to avoid all that entirely. And the unfortunate part about the state of Ohio, it's one of 3 states in which self-defense, it's up to you and your attorney to prove your case. It's not up to the prosecutor to disprove your case of self-defense. You and your attorney have to make that case. That's why getting an attorney and having an attorney before you're in a situation in which you need to use your firearm for self-defense is very, very important. Now, on the civil side of things, if you shoot somebody and a judge feels that your actions were either inappropriate or excessive in your use of that firearm, then you can be successfully sued. However, if your actions aren't excessive and they are appropriate, then the chance of being sued is a lot less likely due to Ohio's self-defense laws that are on the books to prevent frivolous lawsuits as a result of this. But it's very important that you get self-defense insurance or become a member of a self-defense group, kind of like the Armed Citizens Legal Defense Network, and your instructor should have given you that if you're watching this video in the elements of taking a concealed carry class with Surprise Break. So you can read all about that. I'm not going to lecture into that. But anyways, there was a case which is the perfect example of excessive and inappropriateness when it comes to deadly force. This was a case in the state of Ohio in which a concealed carry holder went to a cut corners instructor, we'll say, in order to be as nice as possible. And that instructor told his students that no matter what, should you have to use your firearm, always, no matter what, shoot them twice in the chest and once in the head. Well, one of his students got his concealed carry permit, ended up getting in a carjack situation in which someone pulled a gun on him, pointed at him, told him to get out of the truck. Well, the permit holder, as he's getting out of his truck, he pulls his firearm, ends up shooting his carjacker twice in the chest. Carjacker goes down, is no longer in control of their weapon, and at this point is asking the concealed carry permit holder to get help. He's saying, call 911, get me an ambulance. And the only thing going through this concealed carry holder's mind is always, no matter what, shoot 2 rounds to the chest and once to the head. So I'm pretty sure that we can articulate to this point that his actions up until this point are appropriate and not excessive. However, he has this thought going in his head, always, no matter what, 2 to the chest and 1 in the head. And in front of witnesses, this guy executes his attacker with 1 round to the head as he's already on the ground, not being a threat of serious bodily harm or death to anybody at that point in time. So, long story short, he ends up going to prison. The instructor organization that he was certified through ended up getting sued, and they settled outside of court in order to shy away from any bad publicity. So it's very important that you keep all that in mind. So let's talk about stuff like a lot of us have questions on, like, for example, what all do I need to carry identification wise? Not only that, but where can I legally carry my gun? What states I can legally carry my gun in? What are some places that I absolutely cannot carry a gun in? So first and foremost, when you're carrying your concealed handgun, you need to have 2 forms of government ID, and that includes your concealed carry license. So you need to have that, and then your driver's license or state issued ID card is perfect and meets all requirements of the law of the state of Ohio. Let's talk about some places in which you cannot carry a firearm and some places to where there's kind of gray areas. Okay, so places you cannot carry your firearm in any circumstances as an armed citizen in the state of Ohio is any law enforcement building. Okay, any building occupied by a law enforcement agency, whether it's state, local, or federal. Any courthouse, whether that's state, local, or federal. Any prison or jail or detention facilities, whether that's juvenile or adult. A commercial airplane. Okay, all these are areas that you cannot absolutely positively not carry, and if you do, there's going to be some strict consequences for that that you don't want to have to deal with. Now let's talk about some gray areas and some areas to where you can carry your firearm that just simply depends. Places like a church, okay? Church is kind of unique in the fact of, as long as the church board signs off and gives you written permission and consent to carry your gun, you can carry there. Now, if they do not give you that written permission and consent, and if they have that conspicuous "you can't carry a gun here" sign posted, then you cannot carry that gun. into the church. Child daycare centers, it's left up to the child daycare center now. So you can carry a gun as long as there's not a conspicuous sign posted. Let's talk about political subdivisions, another gray area. That would include like libraries, the place where you pay your water bill at a municipality, all these things. If they have a conspicuous sign, you cannot carry in there. Now, with say you live in a village in the state of Ohio, it's very common for the village building where you pay your water bill, sewage, trash, whatever, to be in the same building that the police department is. So it's very important that you do not cross in that area that's restricted for the police department, and be mindful of that area. Another gray zone is a university. It's up to the university whether they want to allow or prohibit their college students and staff from carrying a firearm inside the building. And all they got to do in order to express them not wanting you to carry is have a simple sign that says that you cannot carry into that university. Now, what they can't tell you to do is not to carry from your home to the college, because you can legally in the parking lot have that gun in your personal vehicle, and you can have that gun on you in that parking lot in your personal vehicle as long as you're in the process of locking that firearm up in your vehicle for storage prior to going in. Now, if they don't have that sign, then you're good to go. School safety zones can be a very big gray area and a topic of discussion, and there's a lot of bad information out about it. Yes, it is federal law to where you can't carry a gun on school property. However, that's pretty ambiguous, and people take that as a loose definition. However, the state of Ohio considers, as long as you do not enter the school building with that firearm on you, that is legal. Now, if you enter that school building and you still have that firearm on you, that is illegal. So for example, if you're dropping a child off, whatever that child relation is to you, off at school, you have your firearm on you and you have your concealed handgun license, and you simply go to the student drop-off area, you watch that child get out of the car and walk into the school. As long as you did not exit the vehicle at any point in that, you did not violate the law whatsoever. Now, if he or she needs help carrying in their backpack, then it gets different. You have to, and this is where I recommend discreetly putting away your firearm and securing it in your vehicle, any magazines or speed loaders you may have, or any knives. So you want to ensure that you're not carrying that into the school. Now, as far as it concerns school property, you may leave a firearm in a school parking lot as long as you have your concealed carry permit. It does not violate the law whatsoever. Now, sporting events, that can be very gray. Okay, if it's inside the school building, for example, a basketball or volleyball game, then that's an indefinite violation. Now, if it's in an open air environment, like a football arena or something like that, then then as far as when it comes to that school, unless that school has signs posted that you're not to carry into that stadium, then you can carry into that stadium. Now, what I'm gonna have my videographer do is I'm just gonna have him put all that in this shot, and as far as the states in which you cannot carry. There's 40 states in which you can carry under your Ohio concealed handgun license, and there's 10 states that you cannot carry under your handgun license, and you also cannot carry in any U.S. territory that's not considered a state, and you also cannot carry in Washington, D.C. So we talked about areas that are a little bit gray and where you can and can't carry. Let's talk about other property issues that pertains to carrying a concealed handgun. So first and foremost, if you're at a department store and they have that no gun sign, that is a misdemeanor offense if you carry that gun in there. Now chances are you're just going to be trespassed if it's from that property, if it's determined that you carried that firearm on you. But remember, it is our jobs as responsible gun owners to carry to the extent of the law, to not go beyond those means, because that's when we can possibly lose some of those rights and privileges that we have as gun owners here in America. Now, in Ohio, your employer cannot prohibit you from having a gun in your vehicle as long as you have that concealed handgun license. They can prohibit you from entering the building with that firearm, but they cannot fire you for having that gun in the car, and you cannot be charged for leaving that gun in your vehicle. The only exception to this would be as if you worked on a military base of some sort, then you're under United States code and military law, and you really need to be careful if that applies to you and make sure you follow that, because typically the military courts are very strict on that. Now, when it comes to defensive property, here is where there's a lot of misinformation out there. First and foremost, your family pet, whether it's a cat, dog, it could be anything, is considered property by the state of Ohio law. So you cannot use deadly force against someone or even another animal that just happens to be attacking your pet. And when we're talking about other property elements when it comes to concealed carry, or even having a gun in your home for home defense, if someone comes in and they threaten only property, they don't threaten you and they don't threaten other people. For example, if I were to come into your home and say, hey, I like that 72-inch flat screen on the wall, I'm just gonna grab that, have a nice day, and I don't make any threatening gestures towards you, and I just leave with that television, you're not gonna be justified in shooting me with a bat. Now, can you use less lethal measures to keep me from leaving with your property? Absolutely. But you're gonna have a hard time articulating and not being charged in a situation if you decide and make the poor decision to shoot someone in that particular instance. Now, there is an example, there's always an exception, rather, not an example, an exception to the rule as it pertains to defensive property. If you are trying to protect others and as a result you're also protecting property, then it's justified. So for example, if you and your family are in your home and someone is trying to set fire to your home, or they're shooting at your home from outside, even though they're not in your home, they're doing something which can cause you serious physical harm and those in your household. So in that particular instance, even though you're defending property, technically, you're also, and more importantly, defending and protecting life. And that's how the law looks at it. So we have covered a lot of stuff today. And I hope all of this is very informative and clears things up. So we've discussed the law, where you can and can't carry. We have discussed the 3 pillars for the state of Ohio for self-defense. But now I'm going to take things one step further, and we're actually going to talk about what to do after you've been involved in a defensive shooting. So real quick, I'm going to take a quick break. I'm going to grab a concealment garment because I'm going to need that for this next part of this video. And for the purposes of safety of myself and the staff, we will be using a Red Man gun. It does not fire, it does not load. It is simply the real feel and weight of a full-size Glock handgun. So for the purposes of this demonstration, that's what we're going to be using instead of a firearm. So I got my concealment garment on because we really want to shy away from open carry, and that's a whole nother video that we can dive into. But just why we caution you from open carrying, remember, open carrying, you're getting rid of that element of surprise that concealed carry gives you. And also with open carry, you are now, whether you are intending to or not, making a whole lot of attention for yourself that's just not necessary. But if you're one of those people that are intent on open carrying, chances are my expertise is not going to sway you. So let's talk about what to do if you've been involved in a defensive shooting. So first and foremost, okay, for whatever reason, someone's come at you, you've had to shoot them multiple times, you're going to follow them down till they're no longer a threat. Then you're going to immediately check your area and check your world and check your environment. But while we're doing this, we want to ensure that we are not muzzling or pointing the muzzle at anybody who is a bystander, who's not a possible threat, and make sure that there aren't other threats in the area. Then, as long as our environment allows us to and it's safe for us to do so, we need to holster that firearm. And we need to be very careful when we're holstering the firearm, especially after we've used it in a stressful situation like most self-defense shootings are. So we want to be very careful that we have our finger outside that trigger guard and in a registered position. I like having my finger around the ejection port. Then I'm simply going to sweep that concealment garment out of the way and very slowly holster the handgun. We don't want to be in a hurry to put it away. There's no need when you're holstering a handgun to be in a hurry because you do not need it anymore. Now, after we've done that, we need to get our cell phones. We need to call 911. When you're calling 911, the first thing that's going to happen is dispatch is going to ask you, where is your emergency? What I recommend doing is putting that phone on speaker, setting it down. That way, everything, that way you have both hands free should another threat come up. So I would just put that down, leave it on speaker, and I would be talking to dispatch. Now, when they say, where is your emergency? You're going to give them your physical address. So for example, I'm at the Shawnee Prairie Reserve right now shooting this video. Then they're going to ask you, what is your emergency? Now, this is where you want to be careful and not give too much information, because remember, everything is being recorded at this point. What I advise you to do is tell them that you were attacked, you were in fear of your life, and you had to use your firearm in self-defense. You have a concealed carry license, and you have holstered the firearm. Now, if not, for whatever reason your environment is unsafe, you need to tell them it's unsafe for me to holster right now, so I will be the guy holding the gun when officers arrive. Now, after that, it's very important that you request medical attention for not only yourself, because you could be injured and not even know it, but also for the person you shot. That looks very good in court, just for the simple fact that you don't have any malicious intent against that person. You, unfortunately, were in a situation in which you had to shoot them and you wish them no other harm after the fact. So after we have done all this and said all this, we need to talk to dispatch and give them an accurate physical description of ourselves. For example, if I'm describing myself, I'm 6'2", 250 pounds. I have, the front of my hair is gelled and spiked up. I have a beard. I'm wearing blue jeans and a green button-up shirt, and I have a tan concealment garment on. And I'm wearing gray tennis shoes. So all these things that are descriptors, it's very important for them to know, because remember, it's the 911 call taker's job to relay this information to responding police officers. You won't know whether your 911 call taker or your dispatcher is someone who's been on the job for years and years, or it's their first day on the job, and that's going to have a big impact in the amount of information that they get to the officer. Also, what's going to have a big impact on the amount that they're able to get to the officers responding to your call is how far away the officers are. The farther away that an officer is, the more information that dispatcher can get to the officer before they respond. You're going to remain on the phone with the dispatcher for the whole time until the police arrive. Again, having it on the ground on speaker is your best bet. Or on top of your vehicle, somewhere close to you where they can still hear you and you can still hear them. Now, when there's going to be two scenarios here that we're going to have to play out. The first scenario is the police are arriving now. Okay, they have arrived to your location and you already have that gun concealed and holstered. So how I would greet the police, first and foremost, that are responding to this, is my hands up in front of me to where they can see my hands in a relaxed environment. I'm not doing anything like most criminals would do, like having them way up or way out or whatever the case may be. I'm having them simply here to where they can be seen. And the first words out of my mouth are going to be, "Thank God you're here, officer. I'm the one who called." Now, when I say I am the one who called, that is making me the complainant. In a police report, especially in a self-defense shooting, that's where you want your name to appear as the complainant, not the victim or the suspect. Okay? Complainant. Now, in this situation, you'll also be the victim if it's justified self-defense. Then after, "Officer, thank God you're here, I'm the one who called," you need to tell them what happened, but be very brief on this. "They attacked me, they tried to murder me, I was in fear of my life." That's setting the elements for self-defense. "I shot to stop that person. I fully intend to cooperate with your investigation, but first I need to speak to my attorney, and I also needed to go to the hospital and make sure I don't have any injuries that I'm unaware of." This is very important. You don't want to go on and talk about details. And when that police officer asks you questions about your shooting, for example, how many rounds did you fire? That's a trick in order for you and to get a number out of you. And that number that you give the officer, if it's inaccurate, and it probably will be, because under stress you're going to think that you fired a third the amount that you actually shot in a gunfight. That having said, you don't want to give that number out there, because if they go, "Well, you know, Mr. Yount, you stated that you shot that person 4 times. However, there's 12 rounds missing out of your pistol. Is there any reason why you would lie to us?" You don't want to go down that route. So you don't want to give any details. Of course, be cooperative with them. Do not resist arrest. If they tell you to put your hands behind your back, they put you in handcuffs, not a big deal. The fight is not on the street, it is in the court. So cooperate, because simply saying no after a police officer says you're under arrest can be enough to charge and convict you with resisting arrest. And you don't want to do anything criminally in your interaction with the police, especially after a defensive shooting, because it's going to make proving your case of self-defense a little more difficult. Then, right after all this happens, immediately you call your attorney, or in my case, as an Armed Citizens Legal Defense Network member, I'm going to call them. They're going to have an attorney, and they're going to represent me. Now, most self-defense shootings in the state of Ohio do not end in charges or lawsuits. However, it is a possibility that we need to address, and that's why we address them in this video. So we did the scenario in which your gun's already holstered. Now we need to go over the scenario in which, for whatever reason, it's unsafe to put away your firearm. You are still, for whatever reason, that person still has a gun in their hand maybe, or a knife, and you don't know whether they're alive or they're still with us, they're playing possum, they're still a possible threat. So say you're still staying on that threat and then police arrive. You're going to get a command of "Police, drop the gun." Here is what I recommend you do when you hear "Police, drop the gun," and it's a police officer that is giving you that command. Actually, drop that pistol. Why? Because your life is not worth that $500 or $600 or whatever you paid for your personal protection handgun. Plus, modern firearms have drop safeties now to where that gun's not going to go off. Now, should you feel uncomfortable simply dropping that handgun, another technique you can use. Now, typically, this looks like you're surrendering that handgun. However, very quickly, and I will do it slowly so you can see that, now it's a threat again. Police officers know this. So if you do anything that can be constituted as a threat, say you're putting the gun down here, we know that it takes just a flick of the wrist, and I'm probably, as a police officer, not going to be able to react fast enough and not get shot in that circumstance. So any movement with that muzzle anywhere besides away from you and that officer and other people is going to result in you possibly being shot. So you want to make sure there's no innocent people over here and it's not pointed at you or them, and you grab the firearm in a non-shooting manner and say, "Officer, I'm putting the gun down," and then step away, and then they'll give you more and more commands and instructions, and follow those. Like I already said, the street is not the time to fight law enforcement. It's in the court if you feel they handled it inappropriately or they violated your constitutional rights, etc. So that being said, I hope this video answered your questions when it comes to laws, where you can and can't carry, what meets the requirements for self-defense, and more importantly, and what's going to be most beneficial to you, is I'm going to tell you the application process. So in this video, I'm going to have the links posted either below or somewhere in here, so you can go online and print off the application and also the law booklet. Now, the information today is stuff that I've extracted from the law booklet and actually inserted case law into as well. You need to read that book in its entirety before you apply for your license. So the application process to get your concealed carry license. You have to apply at your local sheriff's office or an adjoining county. You must bring a complete and accurate application. It normally costs $67 for your first license, which is good for 5 years. You need to bring your driver's license with you, and you also have to bring a 2x2 photo. Now, call ahead before you go to the sheriff's office because some of them will take that 2x2 photo for you and attach it to your application for an additional fee. Others will require you to bring that. And another good reason to call ahead of time is to make sure that the hours of the sheriff's office. So there might be a sheriff's office in which it's by appointment only, or it's by certain hours. You need to bring a copy of the certificate that we give you and not the original. That way, in case they lose the copy, you can make another copy of your original certificate and give to them. That way it doesn't further delay the process in getting your concealed handgun license. So, coming up in this video, we're going to show you how to interact with law enforcement when you've been stopped in a traffic stop situation, and also when you've been stopped on foot and you're carrying that firearm. And we're also going to show you a couple different scenarios in which either that officer allows you to maintain possession of the firearm during that stop, whether it's on foot or in a traffic stop situation, and also what it looks like when an officer takes that firearm, which they can legally do for the duration of the stop. Good afternoon, sir. Officer Yount with the Arcanum Police Department. The reason why I stopped you today is I clocked you doing 36 in a 25-mile-an-hour zone. You got any reason for your speed today, sir?
Officer, I've got a concealed carry permit. My pistol is on my right side hip.
Okay. Do me a favor, just keep your pistol where it is and I'll keep mine where mine is. Deal?
Deal.
All right. So without reaching, tell me where your driver's license, your concealed carry license, your registration, and proof of insurance is.
My registration is in my visor. My other information is in my billfold, my right side back pocket.
Okay. Very slowly with your right thumb and index finger, go ahead and pull your wallet out and get your driver's license and concealed carry license out for me. Okay. Okay, sir. Thanks for informing me that you're carrying a firearm today like you're required to by law. I appreciate that. Do me a favor, just like you've been doing, keep your hands on the steering wheel. I'm gonna go back and run everything and I'll be with you shortly, all right? Okay?
Thank you.
All right, sir. I'm just gonna give you a warning today for your speed. Make sure you slow down and drive safe, okay?
Thank you very much. Have a good day.
What you just witnessed was about 90% of interactions with a law enforcement officer while you're carrying a firearm either on you or somewhere in your vehicle. 90% of the time, we're not gonna take the firearm off the violator, even though legally we can. So 90% of the time, it goes nice and smooth. Be respectful, you'll get respect back, and you have nothing to worry about. Good. Good afternoon, Officer Yount, Arcanum Police Department. The reason why I stopped you is I clocked you in 36 and 25. Do you got any reason for your speed today, sir?
Officer, I've got a concealed carry permit. My pistol is on my right side hip.
Okay, what I want you to do for me, I'm gonna take that firearm for the duration of the stop for my safety. I'm gonna ask you to step out of the vehicle. When you do so, go ahead and open the door from the outside for me, okay? Go ahead and turn around, face away from me. Put your hands on top of your head. All right, now where is the firearm?
It's on my right side hip.
Right side hip, okay. All right, sir, you got any other weapons on you?
No, sir.
Okay, just go ahead and do me a favor and have a seat back in your vehicle for me, all right?
Alrighty.
All right, need to see your driver's license, registration, and proof of insurance, please. Okay, and your concealed carry license? Okay, I appreciate you telling me. I'm just gonna go run your information and I'll be back with you shortly. Just keep your hands on the steering wheel like you've been doing and we'll be all right, sir? All right. All right, sir. I appreciate your cooperation and informing me about the firearm like you're required to by law. I'm just gonna give you a warning today for your speed. There's your information. Now, the firearm, as you can see, I locked it to the rear, okay? I'm gonna put it on your dash until, do not touch it until I get back in my car and drive off, okay?
All right.
Okay, and here's the magazine.
Thank you.
All right, sir, I appreciate your cooperation today. Drive safely, okay?
Thank you.
How are you doing tonight, sir?
Pretty good. How are you?
Doing okay?
Yeah.
All right, do me a favor, can you step up here for me? Do you get your some identification on you, sir? I just want to know who your name
I've got a concealed carry ID, and my pistol's in my right side hip.
Okay, okay. Do me a favor, just turn around and put your hands on top of your head for me. All right, just for your safety and mine, until I figure out what's going on tonight, I'm gonna take your firearm from you, okay? I'm gonna remove the holster and the gun. Is that all right?
That's fine.
Okay, do you got any other weapons on you?
No, sir.
All right. Now we can talk. All right, sir, you can go ahead and turn around now. Go ahead and get your ID out for me, please, and your concealed carry license. Okay. 315 Olin. Robert Mary 290828. Just advise of 15s. All right, what are you doing tonight?
I'm just walking down here to my mom's house.
Okay. Where are you coming from?
Downtown at the gas station.
Okay. We could get anything at the gas station?
No.
Okay. All right. Sir, I'll be honest with you. You know, as long as everything checks out, you'll be on your way. But we've had a lot of break-ins in this area, and I just saw you out walking around. I've never seen you in this neighborhood before. So I'm not saying that you're doing anything wrong. That's not it. I'm just doing my job and making sure that everything's on the up and up, all right?
All right.
Okay? So as soon as dispatch comes back with some information, you'll be on your way, hopefully, all right?
All right.
All right. .315, you're clear on negative warrants. All right, sir. Have a good day. I'm going to return the firearm. First, I'm going to go ahead and clear it, okay? What I want you to do is don't load the firearm until I get back in my vehicle, all right?
Okay.
So I'm going to return that to you. Magazine's out. Okay. Here's your magazine. Go ahead and put that back on your waist. All right, sir, I appreciate your cooperation.
All right, thank you.
Okay, so that concludes what to do when you've been pulled over by a police officer. Like we said earlier, 90% of the time, they're not gonna take your firearm. They're only gonna take their firearm if for whatever reason they're uncomfortable with you having it, or they're investigating you for something that would prohibit you from being in possession of that firearm. Now, if the officer does take the firearm, be cooperative, just like Instructor Christian here did, and be respectful, and it will go nice and smooth. The main thing we need to remember is the time to argue your point is not on the street, it's in the court, or if you feel that officer mistreated you in any way, shape, or form, or violated your constitutional rights, you need to file a complaint with his or her supervisor. Everyone here at Surprise Break Firearms wants to thank you for watching this DVD today, and we hope that you took a lot of information out of this video, and we hope that we educated you on how to interact with law enforcement while you're armed, whether you're being pulled over on a traffic stop or you're just out walking in public like the other scenario today. So again, thank you for watching. Always carry where legal to do so and stay safe. So, I hope you have enjoyed this video. I hope you understand how to interact with law enforcement, whether you're on foot, whether you're on a traffic stop and you're carrying your firearm. I hope you understand the requirements in order to use your firearm in self-defense, or even to threaten to use that firearm in self-defense. And I hope that you understand what to do in the aftermath of when you are the person who gets selected by a violent criminal attacker and you have to use that firearm for self-defense. Well, again, my name is Kyle Yount with Surprise Break Firearms Training. I am the owner. Typically, if you're watching this video, it's because I'm not here, so I want to thank my instructor staff for showing you this video. I hope you have enjoyed it, and I hope it answers any questions. Now, for whatever reason, if it doesn't answer some of your questions, just shoot us an email at surprisebreak@hotmail.com, and we will return that email as soon as we can and answer any questions we have. Tom Cruise ain't got shit on me.